Oh, you know we're off to a great start when the first thing we get to see is Epic Lloyd and some mild brown face.
What's it? The Easter Bunny!
And you know we're off to an even better start when the second thing we get to see is this nightmare. Looks like brownface will be the least of our worries today. We haven't even started yet, but this is just whack, man. I'd also like to point out the behind the scenes isn't much better, as the ERB2 episode on this one begins in the most liminal of liminal spaces with a power outage affecting the studio. Truly, welcome to these backrooms. The real game has now begun. We also get a spooky Bigfoot sighting of Dante Samatamore, which I might be butchering his name, but Peter also just introduces him as Dante on sound, so I don't feel that bad. He'll be important down the line, but we'll pretend he's a random crew member for the moment.
How you gonna battle? I invented hip-hop!
Just take me out back now. End me. So while Khan is suffering from some mild brown face, the second contender here is suffering from being a gay stereotype, and I'm suffering from this terrible, terrible pun. No notes. No notes at all. This is fine. This is so fine.
My little tail swinging and my big ears flopping.
Why'd they do this multiply effect for the tail? And he had to grab his ears to make them flop, and they barely did anyway. It should be neutral because these aren't the worst lines, but I'm mad at these visuals. Yeah, it's low budget, but this is not good. Call it a -0.4 for performance reasons, but yeah, we're taking one off.
The Easter Bunny, baby, I deserve to be arrogant.
But why? I feel like arrogance is the last thing I associate with the Easter Bunny. And then he just doesn't justify it at all. It's so confusing and out of left field. Definitely taking a point off.
You ugly, rapist, pelt-wearing barbarian, ooh!
I guess it's passable, and I can see why the Easter Bunny specifically would have an issue with someone wearing pelts, but the performance still just sucks, and it annoys me that he goes, ooh, right after, like he really did something. Neutral point, I guess. Also related to this line, in the behind the scenes, we have one of the most awkward exchanges where Peter is using the ERB2 camera for the first time ever, and while Lloyd has two women getting him in costume, Peter does an on-the-spot interview bit where he asks Genghis Khan about his SA charges. And Lloyd does not continue the bit. He just goes, which is the right call. Shut that down, because what the f are we doing, guys?
What you gonna do? You got a bucket on your head and a Fu Manchu!
Oh wow, yeah, calling a helmet a bucket. Hard-hitting stuff. And yeah, Genghis Khan does have a Fu Manchu. That's the name of the facial hair. And Peter, don't think it'll slip past me that you tried to cop the gin and juice flow with that line. I'm on to you. I know you're standing the D-O-double-G Snoop Doggy Dog. Anyway, neutral point here, I guess, but I'm so close to another negative.
The Great Wall couldn't keep you out of China!
No, it couldn't, which is a point for Khan. That's, like, impressive. He was able to get past a huge wall with his armies. Why are you pointing out a success of your opponent? It's basically a self-burn, so I guess another negative point.
Watch me rub my foot for luck and stick it right up your vagina!
So there's an old myth in many world cultures that if you hang a rabbit's paw in an amulet around your neck and rub it, it will grant you good luck. Now, past the possible self-own of implying that you'll potentially be killed just for your foot, I'm insulted by the rhyming of China and vagina, and the general structure of these bars is pretty terrible. So we're docking yet another point.
Come on!
I mean, yeah, I guess if someone asked me to say a Genghis Khan quote, I'd probably say, well, maybe he yells a lot? I don't know, I won't take a point off, but this does feel pretty lazy as far as opening lines go.
Your bunny ass about to feel the wrath of Khan!
Okay, I feel like in any normal battle, I'd call this a filler line, but in this case, I'll take what I can get. Sure, we'll give a point for the Star Trek reference.
Silly rabbit, you'll need more than luck!
Honestly, yeah, okay. That's a point. That's like a real point. He referenced the previous verse with the line about the Easter Bunny rubbing his foot, and also referenced the tagline from Trix cereal, which has a rabbit mascot. The rabbit's name is also Trix, by the way, because like pulling a rabbit out of your hat, it's a trick, not important.
You've got two giant ears but can't hear that you suck!
Alright, we're doing it. It's beautiful. 3 points in a row. Solid diss. This is splendid. Here's a point.
I drive a Mongol horde. Your army is weak. What? You're going to attack me with a posse of peeps?
Oh my, and another one. It's self-explanatory, really, but obviously Peeps candy is associated with Easter, and marshmallows don't tend to be great in combat. Wow, I'm having a good time right now.
I'll bite off your tail and punch your teeth down your throat!
Ooh, hardcore and violent. But since it is Genghis Khan, whose brutality is possibly the most enduring part of his legacy, it is fitting. I think I'll call it a filler line, though.
Then butcher your family and make a new code!
Honestly, yeah, we can award a point here. It's another response to the previous verse because the Easter Bunny was like, I'm offended you wear pelts. And Khan's not only like, yeah, I do, but also, yeah, and how about I make another one out of you? Again, pretty hardcore, but we'll take it. Here's a point. I'd like to take a moment here to talk about these portrayals. Lloyd as Khan is not my favorite thing to exist, but at the same time, as long as we stay in the realm of specific character parody and don't get into racial stereotyping, I can live with it. Besides, no Genghis Khan portrayal can be worse than The Conqueror. If you don't know what that is, it's a 1950s movie where Genghis Khan is played by John Wayne. Yes, the cowboy guy. And it sucked so bad, it may have played a hand in driving producer Howard Hughes insane, and it may have also given a majority of the cast and crew early cancer because it was filmed in a nuclear testing area. Honestly, I just wanted an excuse to talk about The Conqueror because some mild racism is about to be the least of our problems. Let's take a look at the Easter Bunny. I guess trying to get into the thought process, maybe they were still at a point where they didn't want to have anyone in a mask, so they had to figure out a way to have Nice Peter's face still visible. And as is obvious by the announcer's sigh, they're trying to do a wink wink, we know this is lame, ironic joke with the Easter Bunny, so maybe the outfit is purposefully bad. But honestly, at that point, just go all in and have the costume be Nice Peter and just some bunny ears and maybe a tail. Have it be as bad as possible if that's supposed to be the point. Don't half commit to the bit. For context, this battle was released on Easter, so that's why they have the Easter Bunny, but they could have and should have chose pretty much anyone but Genghis Khan to rap against him. You could have Cupid or the Leprechaun. This is just... this sucks. And before we continue, I did receive a little piece of breaking news regarding this particular part of the battle. On the scene, we have Poner of the ERB community Discord, who also does his own ERB analysis on the Late Epic channel. Check it out if you can, a link in the description. He was lucky enough to get in contact with Nice Peter to ask about the origin of the Easter Bunny Genghis Khan matchup idea. In an old Reddit AMA from, holy cow, 13 years ago, Peter noted that the idea was a fan suggestion that made him laugh in response to them asking for matchup ideas against the Easter Bunny for the holiday episode. But also, it has been speculated and rumored that the original comment no longer existed, and the one cited as the inspiration was essentially a reenactment. Well, Nice Peter recently confirmed that information for us, and also added that he happened to be thinking about this whole situation on the same day that he was asked. Crazy how things work sometimes. He also called the guy who helped with the comment a good lad, which made me chuckle. Anyways, really cool that Nice Peter is still actively interacting with the fans after all this time, and really cool of Poner to get us this information. This type of behind the scenes stuff is frankly why I even do the show. Check out Lay Epic after watching this video, come on over to the community Discord server and say hi, and let's continue.
Take it easy, baby. No need for this meanness.
Meanness, huh? Guy threatens to eat you and your family, and we're calling it meanness. We're taking a point off for the understatement of the century.
We should keep it peaceful, homeboy. Jesus!
It's fine, but when the filler line is about the best we've had from the Easter Bunny so far, you know you're gonna have a bad time. Alright, and this is future WW Kid here because I need to do a little re-recording, and the sound's gonna be a little bit different because it is raining buckets outside. But I just needed to add something here because these goobers in the back slipped past me on the initial watch and I only caught them in the edit. To be fair, it is kind of a blink and you miss it moment, so I don't feel too bad, but we need to go over them. We have the Easter Bunny's three wise homeboys, I guess. Those being Jesus Christ on the left, the Jesus Rolls from The Big Lebowski on the right, and I guess some generic dude named Jesus in the middle, which is a joke bordering on offensive, but which we'll let slide considering what else we've been subjected to in this battle. Jesus on the left is played by Kurt Schmidt, whose information I primarily found through his LinkedIn profile since he doesn't seem to be much of a public figure. From what he writes about himself, he worked with Maker Studios / Disney for about 12 years, and from what Peter has said, it sounds like that 12 years began with him literally being picked off the street to play Jesus in this video, after which he'd go on to be part of the general camera crew and even get a co-director credit down the line. Basically, he's the luckiest man I've heard of in a while. For the Jesus, we have the aforementioned Dante on sound. Again, for now, we'll pretend he's nobody of particular interest. And in the middle, as a man named Jesus, we have Aaron Zaragoza, who was a production assistant during some of season 1 and a friend of Peter and Lloyd. That's how it goes with small productions. You'll have a friend who helps out for a bit and hangs around the studio, but who isn't like a main part of the crew. Cool to see he got a little cameo though. Anyway, nothing else to add. It doesn't really affect the score, but I just wanted to give a little nod to these three unnamed background characters.
I give people candy. You just like to pillage.
I want to take a point off because this line feels like it could have led to some sort of interesting diss, but I feel like I'm getting numb to the rap at this point, and we'll just say neutral to get on with it.
Why'd you get on my face and go back to your village?
It's giving the same mildly offensive energy as when Lady Gaga told Sarah Palin to go back to her igloo. Only this time, there's also an awkward amount of syllables in there. It's not good, and it's a terrible verse closer. So, one last negative point for the road.
From Poland to Korea, I ravaged the land.
That's not technically accurate. The Mongol Empire at its height, led by Genghis's descendants, did in fact reach more or less that extent east to west. But during Genghis's reign, it went from like the modern North Korea-China border over to kind of Kazakhstan's western border with Russia, just around the Caspian Sea area. I won't take a point off because it's an easy enough mistake to make and I don't want to be too pedantic, but he is self-aggrandizing just a bit here.
Now my DNA's in dudes from New York to Japan. Ha!
According to some DNA research, somewhere around 0.5% of the population is descended from Genghis Khan. He had so many children, and he's basically bragging about how successful his lineage became, which is a scientifically accurate brag, so sure, here's a point. And again, future WW Kid here. For those guys that are all of Genghis Khan's descendants, they are all actually stills of John Na, who is a very important ERB crew member, as he has been the director of photography, which is a pretty important position for the entire series except Lennon O'Reilly. And again, say it with me, that one is the pilot and not the actual episode 1. Good to see him on camera since he's usually the guy on the opposite side of it.
Easter my ass, you're not in the Bible.
The Easter Bunny is, in fact, not in the Bible.
You're a fluffy bitch mascot for Hallmark in denial!
I want to give this 3 points, because right now the greeting card and candy industries have definitely removed most cultural significance from the Easter Bunny. But I'll just give 1 because it's a bit more complicated than that, as these things tend to be. So basically, the Easter Bunny began as the Easter Hare, which became a religious figure closely tied to the Virgin Mary in the Northern European Proto-German states in the medieval era. This tradition melded with a Northern and Eastern European tradition of eggs being associated with Jesus' resurrection, somehow the two being tied together through people giving up eggs during Lent. I don't really know, man. People had nothing better to do at the time, I guess. Anyway, when Europeans, especially Germans, immigrated to the United States in the 1800s, they brought these traditions, which became Americanized, into the modern Easter Bunny, similar to how the modern Santa Claus came to be. And that's your history lesson for the day, kids. I hope you liked it. Going into this, I remembered even at the time disliking this episode, and I expected it to be the worst battle ever. And in a way, it just might be. The Easter Bunny is so far easily the worst portrayed, worst sounding, worst looking, and most poorly realized character, and I'll be surprised if it's ever topped in a future episode. That said, I was shocked by how not bad the Genghis Khan portrayal was. Brownface aside, the costume and acting is great, and Lloyd honestly spits some bars. I don't know if he just looks better in comparison, or if Peter's Easter Bunny looks worse, but I'll be blown away if there's a more lopsided battle down the line. But anyway, we made it. We survived. I was, we'll say, hesitant to do this episode, and I was worried I'd be so unwilling to go through with it that it would basically roadblock the entire series. But by God, the unholy deed is done. Now let's wash our hands of sin, grab some tater tots, and charge the cavalry into the next episode where we find out if Bones or Dynamite is stronger. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.